Hey everyone, welcome back to another lesson, and this is what we're gonna be making. I was so excited to share the Blender lesson first, and this is what I came up with the second time. Okay, that was nice. So I hope you are excited as I am. And first, before we go into Blender, I would like you to download and install an add-on for Blender. Basically, the plugins for Blender are called add-ons. So you have to download a Blender Kit add-on. What it does, it lets you import and get the models without leaving Blender. You can just search the models inside Blender and work inside Blender. Like, you don't have to leave Blender at all. So it's a free plugin. You can just download it from the official website and install it and look for a tutorial on YouTube. Once you've done that, we will hop into Blender and make our animation. When we are done inside of Blender, then we will go to After Effects to make that animation even more appealing. And one last thing, all the project files, the original animation and the one we made in the lesson will be available for you to see, so you have a full complete insight. And before we get into the animation, first I would like to show you an idea so you have a clear picture of what we are going to do. Usually I don't make any mood board because I do it all in my head, then just get into the animation part. So to make it easy for you to understand, I prepared this mood board. This will be the general idea of the animation. The box will come in like as it is, then it will open a tiny bit, then it will go back to closing once again, then it open instantly and the birds will come out. After that, moving on to the second scene, which will be a POV angle, a point of view angle. In this scene, the objects will be way too close to us and the birds will come out and floating, do their thing. I don't know how to explain it, but you get the point. And the third scene, it will just be the bird itself moving like this, and there's another bird will be out of focus, staying in the back. After that, this bird will move above and out of the camera view. Then the next scene is going to start, and when the next scene start, the bird first will be alone, and then we will use After Effects to duplicate this because it's gonna be a PNG sequence, so we can just duplicate the bird however we want, and it will make a few replicas of itself. Then those replicas will move and just close the animation, and then we will end the animation with some nice titles, and that's it. And this animation sheet will be available to you when you download the project, so you have something to follow with. You can make your first Blender animation. Okay, now let's launch Blender and see what we can do. And this is what Blender looks like. This is, you have a default cube, and whatever the key I'm hitting either on my mouse or on my keyboard will be available for you to see on this left section. If you want to zoom in the scene, you can use your mouse wheel like in every software, and if you want to orbit like this, you can hit the middle mouse button, so you can move like this. And when you hit shift and middle mouse button, then you can pan like this while holding shift and middle mouse, and just the middle mouse you can just move it like this. And if you hit alt and middle mouse, then you can snap your view. And this is the transform options, just like in After Effects. In Blender it looks like this. Now if I go inside here, you can see the location options, the rotation options, and the scale options, just like After Effects. Now if I want to move it, if I want to scale it up like proportionally, what I can do, I can select it, hit S on my keyboard and move my mouse like this. If you move it up, it's gonna go big. If you move it down, it's gonna go down. Now if I want to make it a scale on certain axis, I can hit S and then hit the axis I want it to scale to. For example, S, Y, S, X, and S, Z. Same goes for the rotation. Hit R on your keyboard and hit the axis you want it to rotate to. Just like that. Okay, now what about moving it? And to move it, we can just move it like we do in After Effects. First we have to select the object, then hit G to activate gizmo mode, then move the mouse around it. So if you want to move it on the axis, on certain axis, you can hit select the object hit G on your keyboard, then hit the axis you want it to snap to, for example G, Y, G, X and G, Z. And then we have a camera view after that. You can see this tiny icon on your right side, the camera icon. This means the final view that is gonna be on the export video or export PNG sequence. This is what the final view will look like. You can fix it. For example, if you don't like that certain view and you want some other view to be your final view that's gonna be on the exported video, you can do it like this, like set an angle using your mouse and then hit Ctrl Alt and insert on your numpad. So it will set that certain angle as your final exported angle. When you hit insert again on your numpad, this will be your export view. This is going to be appearing on your final video. So if you want to keep inside final video and you want to set an angle, you can't just do that. For that you have to hit N. You can just open this tiny arrow icon on your right side. It will open this tiny menu and you have to go to view and enable camera to view option. So you can now just use your mouse to fix the angle while staying in the final view. Now what if you don't have a numpad key on your keyboard? Simple. Some keyboards don't have numpad these days, so you can just fix it by going to Edit, Preferences and go inside Input and enable Emulate Numpad. And what it does, it makes the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers on your keyboard act as numpads. So when you hit Ctrl Alt and 0 on your keyboard, it will act exactly the same. Now there's no way to make this menu go away on its own because it doesn't give an option. So what you can do is you can just hit N on your keyboard to make this menu go away and hit N on your keyboard again to make this menu come in. Okay, now after that we have the view options. This is the first view, basic view, and this is the material view, which will show us the material that is being used on the 3D model. And this is the final render view, which is also exported view, which is gonna be appearing on your exported video. It shows you the placing of lights, shadows and everything, while material view doesn't show any kind of shadows and lights. So when we work, we usually work in this basic shade mode, so the view isn't too heavy on the CPU. Okay, now this is the last thing. This is the timeline. This is what a timeline looks like in Blender. If you cannot see the timeline, you can just go onto this tiny menu on the left side and enable timeline. And the method I showed for animating the scene is actually not the best, it's a worst method. But we will use that worst method for now to get started and get familiar with Blender. Then afterwards we will use a tool in Blender called Dope Sheet. Dope Sheet is a thing in Blender that will be helpful for us to animate further complex scenes. We will use that in some other lesson. Okay, now let's get started with Blender first. Okay, so as we saw in the Blender demo, this is what Blender looks like, and we don't need anything in there. The default cube, you can just select it and hit delete, and the light as well. We just need the camera to be in, and this is the plugin that we discussed about, Blender Kit. Whatever you want, you can just type it in and hit enter on your keyboard to make this search. And make sure you are using the same model as I am, so every setting I have, you also have the same things, just to follow along. Then afterwards you can do whatever you want. So this is the model that I'm using. Just click this model and it will be on your viewport. It will be a bit tiny, so you can just zoom it in. And as you can see, this is a null object. Null objects inside of Blender are called empties. In After Effects it's called a null object. In Blender it's called an empty. So this is an empty. The whole model is linked to this empty. If you select it and scale it, it will become a little big. Just make it a little bit big, don't make it too big, otherwise it's gonna make your CPU heavy. In this model, everything is separated: the cover, the box and the birds, as you can see. So make sure you use the exact same model. I will just pull up my timeline and make sure I am in the timeline view. And to animate a 3D scene, you have to think like, just imagine you are shooting a scene, not making a 3D scene. So first what it will do is it will open the cover of the box like this. We want to first animate it, then after the cover is lifted, the earbuds will come out rotating and flying and floating. Then the camera will follow. So this is the direction that I am going for. First I will select the cover and hit R on my keyboard, R and X to rotate it on the X axis. First let's select the angle that we want. So in Blender, the keyframing can be quite tedious. You have to keep an eye on that. So first I want to hit N on my keyboard while this is selected, and these are the transform options. You can also see them on the right side. So this is the property that I want to animate. So to apply a keyframe for this property, what I will do, I will hover my mouse on this and hit I on my keyboard. So it will add a key. You have to hover and then hit I. When you change it, it won't change automatically. It can do it, but it won't change automatically. So you have to hover again and hit I when you update the value. So each time you update a value, you have to hover and hit I. Now I will open it and hover and I. So it will make this animation. The cover will be open a tiny bit, then it will go down again, and then it will be open like instantly. It will be opened. Now here it will be opened like this. Hit I, hover and hit I. Now it will become something like this. And on this section, I want it to be a little bit down, like covered, not fully exposed. I will just update the value, hover and hit I to update it, and go forward a tiny bit, make it go back again, then push this key close to this the other key where it is fully exposed. So it becomes like this, opens, close, and then fully exposed. Let's play it once again. Open, close, and expose. Open, close, and then expose. By the way, I forgot about to tell this small icon, like if your object has outline and you want to turn that outline off, you can hit this switch, and if you want to bring back the outline, you can hit it once again. It just helps in getting a clear picture of what you're making. So here I'm noticing that this is the main point. The frame number 60 and frame number 70 are the main point where the maximum animation is happening. So around this point, I will select the earbud and hover over the location and hit I to add a key, and then go to frame number 70 and hit G and C and pull it up, and then hit I once again. So it will add this key. As soon as the lid opens up, the earbud will come out. If it's overlapping, you can push them a bit forward slightly. Something like that. So as you can see, we are going to animate the movement step by step, not going full on mode. First we animate the location. For the location, then we will move to the rotation part. And another thing you will notice that when we add keys in After Effects, the rotation keys and positioning keys are different in After Effects, like individual keys. Inside of Blender, they just overlap onto one another. There is a way to do that, but for now it will just be overlapping onto one another, like the rotation and the position keyframes will be exactly on top of each other. And here I'm doing the exact same thing for the other earbud, like select it, add I to add a key, and then hit G and Z to move it up, and then hover and then hit I again to add a key once again. So now they both come out as soon as the lid gets open. And now we will move to animating the rotation. First I will select the first earbud, or you can just select any earbud, and it's I think Z rotation. Okay, yes, Z rotation. So I will hover on Z rotation to add a key on the exact same spot as the first key of location, and then go on the second key of location and then move the rotation of Z axis, and then hit I to update it. Then go forward, then add some value to it further, and then hover and hit I to add another keyframe. So it will start rotating quite fast, and as it goes to the third key, the rotation will become a little bit slow. And by default, the keys in Blender are set to easing mode, auto ease mode. So we have to make them linear. We don't want any kind of easing to be happening. So just select the keys and hit T on your keyboard and set them to linear. And I forgot to do this for all the keys, so you have to do them for all the keys at first, and just make them linear. We don't need any easing to be going on. And the rotation for the earbud doesn't look too good, so I will select it and adjust the values like we do in After Effects. Delete this key and push that other key close to, actually let's just delete that as well and do it all over again. So it will come out like this. And on the first location key, the rotation will be set to initial, and on the second I will update the rotation like this and then hit I to update it. And make sure to make them linear. Go a little bit forward and hit R on your keyboard, then Z to add some further rotation. You can just do that from the menu and hit I to add a key and move it a little bit further. So it just keeps going on. Something like that. And you have to do the same for the other. Go to first key and add I to add a key for the rotation. Then give it some rotation on the Z axis, just a tiny bit, and then hit I once again. And then go forward a little bit and then give it some further value like that, and then hit I. Make sure to make them linear. And this is what it looks like. The animation is set to go for the model. We don't want to do anything kind of too complex. We just want to set the basic animation inside of Blender. Now that we have the model animation done, we will do the animation for the camera. And then zoom out to have the camera selected. Select the camera like that, and then hit G and move it somewhere so we can focus on the model. Or you can just set the view like that using your mouse. Let me show you what happens when the camera view is not set. For example, if I hit insert on my numpad, or either just hit this tiny camera icon, it shows me the blank empty canvas because the view is not set. So that's why we have to set a view. So first we have to get the angle that we are going for, and then hit Ctrl Alt and insert on your numpad to set this as the final main view. And now if you're still not happy with the final view, like I want this to be in the middle but I cannot move it, when I hit my mouse it just gets back me to the viewport view. So I want to stay in the camera view and then change it. So what I will do, I will hit N on my keyboard and go inside view and enable camera to view options. Now you can use your mouse to set this model or the angle while staying in the camera view and not going back to the viewport view. Okay, so this is what we have so far. And now what I would like to do, like we do in After Effects, we open two views so we can work simultaneously. You can do that in Blender as well. So there's no option to do that, but you have to go on either the right top corner or the left top corner and just drag this like this, so it will open a new. I know it's kind of weird since it doesn't have any option to, you can just click and it opens. So this is the only way I know of. Maybe there's a way. So anyway, this way you will have two views. First view we will use as a basic shading mode view to see what's going on, and the other view will be the final export view. So we have idea of what they look like simultaneously. And in the basic shading mode view, I will first hit N on my keyboard to open this menu and just make sure the camera to view is unchecked, and also turn on the outlines so we can see the empty object and the camera as well. Animating the camera will be exactly the same as we did for the 3D object. So on my timeline, I will stay on the first frame, move the camera around, and these are the locations. Make sure it is selected. So 60 is where the animation is happening. So I will hover over the location and hit I to activate the first key, and then hover over the rotation as well to activate the key on top of it. Then move forward to about 70 where the buds come out. I will move the camera like so, a little bit close to the buds. And on the second view, you can, since the camera to view option is activated on the second view, not on the first view, so I can adjust it however I want. Something like that. And now to activate the key on hitting on 70, you have to hit I. So it will, when you play it, it will be something like this. And I think it's kind of too close as of now. First I want it to be not too close. And now you can also use the camera to view option on your other view to shift the camera like so. This way I find it easy to animate this way, or maybe there is a way, but I like to do it this way. And now we want to add a subtle zoom in, so use just mouse wheel, zoom in using mouse wheel, and go a bit forward, hover over the values to add another key, hit I, and yes, don't forget to turn them to linear. It will look like this when you play it. Okay, so I hope you get the general idea of how the animation is going. Now to make another scene, now you have to go in the middle of these two keys and add another key in between, then delete the last key. And now we will update the angle however you want, and you don't have to follow angle to angle what I'm doing, just have fun with it. And when you are happy with the angle, you can hover over the values like always and hit I to add a new key. Okay, so animating this took me quite a while to figure out what angle I wanted to go with, so I just speed up this process, but I hope you get the point and you get the idea. It's not too complicated, just like how we do in After Effects. And once I'm happy with the overall animation, I will come back and then I will show how I did that other scene where the scene cuts and then shifts to the solo shot. Okay, then I went back to the first frame where I would like to add some subtle zoom in. So just use the mouse wheel to zoom out and then hit I after hovering to add another key at the beginning of this animation. So it will start zooming in and then it suddenly zoom into your view. Okay, then now let's add some lights to it. Go to the add option at the top, and when you go down you can see lights. We will add an area light. This is what an area light looks like. Hit G on your keyboard to select it and then Z to put it above. Now as you can see on your right view, we can already see the light. Now if you go to the world option, these are world options, and turn the world light to black, so we can see light more prominent now. This is what it looks like. And we will set the lights like exactly how they set up in photography. You can look up on internet if you want to see how they set lights in photography. One light is on the left side, other light is on the right side, and the fill light is on the back side. I will just put this light on the left side, and you can go to the light settings on your menu, and if you want to change the shade of the light, I would suggest you not do that unless you want to. I did that in this, so if I keep it white, then I would have more options to play with in After Effects. If I just give it too much shading like I did here, then I will be limited to do anything in After Effects. Anyway, I will add another light like this, rotate it something like this. So we want to send this light back on the back side of the object, so it acts as a fill light. As you can see, it has added an edge on the back side of the 3D object, a white edge. So that's what we wanted. And if you would like, you can also make it intense by going into light settings and hit up the power. And you don't need to do anything for the light, anything special, just keep them default. Okay, and by the way, you can also animate the light, like when the animation is starting, you can make them like they are opening. Okay, now add a key to the power of the first light, move it forward, and then change the value to none, and then add another key. Now the animation will start with no light, and as the animation goes, the light will start to come in. something like that. You can do that for all of the lights, same thing, something like that. And now for this fill light that is on the back side, instead of animating the power of this light, I want to animate the position, the location of this light, so it gives this Apple kind of look. I know I've seen this somewhere, but I don't recall it. Where have I seen this? So anyways, just simple as everything we did, but actually let's just animate the power of this as well. Just for the sake of simplicity, I just wanted to give you an idea that you can animate the position, the location of the light as well. And one thing I would like to mention here, that don't try to make animation too perfect inside of Blender. Like, I know it can be a little bit complicated, there's better way to do it, but I don't like to make animations too complex in Blender myself. I personally like to post process and post edit inside of After Effects. Like, you can use a plugin like Quickster, or you can just use the time manipulation methods to make slow motion, fast motion, and this kind of thing. So don't try to make everything too perfect inside of Blender. We can always fix that in post processing in After Effects. Okay, now I have done with the lighting, and now let's move to the cut scene effect where the airbird goes up and the scene changes. So it's quite simple. Actually, there's a better way to do that, but what I will do, I will open the location keys of the bird and just move it above, like out of the canvas. Now select the camera, and when the bird is going up, we want the camera to go up as well. So here you just have to animate the camera like we did in the animations before. Select it, hit G and Z and just pan it around the view. Then hit I to add the key. Now I forgot to add the keys to the airbird, so I will select airbird once again like this and just add another key in between these two keys. And make the airbird go above. Now hit I to add another key. Now we will use a quick trick, or maybe you can call it some foolish way. I don't know a better way to do that. And make sure this time they are not set to linear but to Bezier. And we will just go one frame back when everything is out of the canvas, just one frame back, and add another key here. At this point, hit I to add another key. Then go just one frame forward. And now we want to get that bird back in the view section. Here I'm just trying to send it back in Z axis. Now hit I once again, and then delete these two keys, and then hit G and Z to push it up in the middle section. Then hit I once again. Now it will act like this. So now as you can see, we have made a cutscene. If the cutscene is not too perfect, you don't have to worry about that. You can do that in After Effects. There's a better way to do that inside Blender using two cameras at the same time. But I don't want to make it too complicated, so let's just keep it simple for the time being. After that, in other lessons, we can go as complex as we want. After that, I will simply add some rotation keys to the bird, and I think I forgot to add some rotation to it. And once we are done with it, I will try to make it zoom in and go flying from the scene to close this animation. In order to do this, you can either use the bird itself for the animation, or you can just use the camera. However you want, you can do that. You just have to make it come into the scene and then go flying like this. And as I said, you don't have to follow exactly. If you want it to go away some other way, you can do that too. However you see it's fun for you to do that, or however you see it's easy for you to handle. Just have fun with it. That's the whole point. When you're learning, of course, you can use this skill in many ways once you have this. So just have fun with the process. If you enjoy the process, the outcome will be good automatically. Alright, now let's have a look at what we have so far. Let's hit play. So that's what we have so far in Blender. Now it's time to export this animation as a PNG sequence. So for that, what you have to do, first thing, you have to go inside the render settings and make sure you are set to EV. And then inside the film option, you have to make sure the transparency option is selected. And after that, I will go to output settings, and I will just keep it 1920 by 1080 because I don't want to make it vertical. And other thing you have to notice is that our animation ends on 327 frames. So you have to add 327 on the end value. Make sure PNG is selected in the file format and RGBA. And on this section, you have to add the output location. So you just have to open a folder and make a new folder. So everything that is going to be exported will be inside this folder, just for the sake of easy workflow. And double click, then copy this location. And after copying this location, you can just paste it inside Blender. And that's pretty much what we have to set up for the export. Just if you want to mess with the FPS, you can do that, but I would just keep it to 24 FPS. And then double check the settings like mine, and we are good to go. Now you can go ahead on the top menu and hit render and hit render animation. It's going to open this new window in front of you. This is how exporting is done in Blender. It will show you a preview just like in After Effects while exporting the video. So you just have to be patient with it. It's gonna take a little bit of time. It took me like 2 or 3 minutes, but it will depend on your CPU. It could be fast, it could be a little bit slow. So just be patient with it, and I will come back as it's rendered. Okay, now it is exported, and I will just paste the location that we just copied up before the rendering, and this is what it looks like. Like, it's not a video because it's a PNG sequence. Best thing about a PNG sequence is that it does not usually fail at exporting. Okay, so now that we have it, we can use it to work inside of After Effects. And then in After Effects, this time we will not start by adding a new comp, but we will right click on our project panel, go to import and file, and then locate the PNG sequence that we just exported. You have to select the first image of the PNG sequence and make sure the PNG sequence is checked, and then hit import. We exported in 24 FPS, so as you can see, it has by default changed it to 30 FPS. So I will go to interpret footage and then main and set it to 24 FPS from 30 FPS. I don't know why After Effects does that. It sets it to 30 FPS. Okay, now just put it on the timeline. Nothing too complex. We just want to do some color correction to it and add some text and add like some haziness and glow effects to it. Make it match to the audio. I don't use audio in this because that's a subject of its own. So I will just make some cuts and show you a few things you can do to make it even better, enhance it with the colors. So first I will add a new adjustment and call it impact. This is like how we always do, add a transform option to it, add slider effect to it, enter the wiggle expression to it to make the impact. So you just have to find the good spots where you want to add an impact shake. I think this would be good since it comes into the scene. And now if you play it, this is what it should look like. Tiny effect. Now just find the cuts that where you want to add an impact, and you can do, for example, this spot is good for the impact. You can even cut the main PNG sequence and cut like 5 or 6 frames from it and join the footage, and that will give that hard cut effect on the impact part you may have seen in the actual animation. We have to find the cut that we made inside of Blender that wasn't too good. I think it was here, so I will just split the footage like so and just try to match it with the cut. I think this looks good. The thing is, there's no steps to doing it. You can do however you want, however you feel like. For example, if you want to duplicate the layers and make like a cinematic or motion graphic kind of scene, you can do that as well. There's no limiting to doing that. So just have fun with it, as I always say. The main parts will be the color correction and pulling out that dramatic feel. Alright, now after that I will add another adjustment and put a camera lens blur effect to it. And this is my favorite effects, one of my favorite effects. It just makes everything look good. Simply just for example, on this impact section I will add a key and then 1 frame forward and add another key with a value and then add another key at the end to make it fade away. So when you play it, this is what it should look like. It just gives that finishing touch to the animation and some sort of depth. Just copy and paste these keys on the other impact as well. And you can also enable timer mapping on the first footage in case if you want to slow it down or speed it up. So for that I will add a new key at this point, and I want this to come like way too fast. So I will add another key. I think it doesn't look too good. Maybe I have to adjust the curve. Yes, this is something that looks good. Okay, now let's try this one. Yes, this one is good. Just shift the impact keys so it hits on the exact spot. And here the cut wasn't too smooth. Maybe we can slow it down when it goes up, or add a scale key to the transform options, make it a little bit big, and just add a key for the scale and add the key for the anchor point as well, so it adds a fake camera to it. Just something like that. There. And now I will cut this and join it with the main layer. Go onto this cut and add 2 more keys and put them 1 frame back, and then hit the reset option on your transform effect. And now you can, when it lands on the certain spot, you can add another impact. And then it flies away. And now you can add a text using your text tool. Everything starts to make sense as soon as you add some text to it. Like, it's no fun seeing AirPods floating in the air. Like, there's no context to it. You have to add some text. Like, adding text can make any animation scene or any motion design scene look cinematic and look good. The main thing here is to pick a good font that goes well with your clip. The best thing to do in this case, if you don't have any idea what font to pick, you can just go with the simplest and the cleanest font that you have and you should be good. For example, I'm using this font called Titanium or something like that. Titanium Web. It's a good font, I like it because of the blockiness. And for this text, I will just keep it simple because it's gonna be on the intro. So just add opacity. And then simply make it fade out. Super simple stuff. And now I will add another adjustment and call it film and put a film effect to it. It's by Magic Bullet. The first preset looks good, so I will just keep tweaking it until I find something that I like, or maybe put the values myself manually. Okay, now to have some contrast to it, I will put a curves effect to it and adjust it depending on your scene. I think I don't want to keep it too exposed. I want it to be a little bit dark. Okay, now add a new solid and call it optical flares. And we will add a plugin by Video Copilot called Optical Flares. Then set it to transparent mode and open the settings. You can use any flare that you have available. I use this one because I didn't know when did I save it, but I like this one, so I'm just going to use it and hit OK. So make sure you have it underneath the film effect, so it also get affected by the film effect. The film effect and underneath the impact effects. Basically what we have to do, we want the light to follow a certain highlight on the AirPod, and I wish there was a better way to do it, but for now we just have to do it manually, like add keys to the positioning of the light like this. And I've seen many people do this method. I wish there was a better way to do it, or maybe there is that I don't know of. It's gonna take a little bit of time, and you don't have to do like way too detailed. Just keep it follow, and it's gonna be so fast that no one is going to notice it anyway. And once I'm done with it, I will cut it like this and make a duplicate of it and place it on the other earbud and just adjust the positioning of this. Okay, now I will add another adjustment just above the PLG sequence and put a selective color effect to it. And I think I should have chose white lights inside of Blender when I was exporting it instead of picking the colorful lights. But I think it looks good in its own way, not exactly like the original animation. It's just a bit unique with the change of theme. Okay, now let's turn on the film effect to see how they look in the context of full view. And just mess with it, it's nothing special going on here. The main thing will be to make them flow with the music, which is another topic to discuss in another lesson, where I will show you how to do sound design that actually complements the video that you're making and goes well with everything, like everything being cohesive and being a one piece. So for now, you just have to focus on the visuals. First get the visuals, then focus on the sounds afterwards, in this case. Now if I am to put the compositing part in easy words, that would be, imagine if you are editing a movie footage or a movie edit, or let's say AMV edit, and you are animating something that is already existing. So you're basically enhancing it with further transitions, moving it with cool animations in the post-processing. So you just have to think like that you're editing something made by someone else, not by you, but by someone else. This way it will be much easier to focus on compositing part. Sometimes I do that when I have a scene inside of Blender and I am on the post-processing, and I just say to my mind that this is made by someone else and I have to send it to him. So I have to nail it like the best way possible. So I don't know, it just helps in making something cool. And since we have applied the transform effect on the impact adjustment, we can make use of it, like use it in a way to add additional movement. So like you can add shaking, you can add further movement like going up and going down, and you can even duplicate PNG sequence and duplicate it a couple of times to make a cloning effect, if that makes sense. Okay, now I'm going to add another adjustment and put a deep glow effect to it. Turn down the exposure, I think, and you can tweak further settings inside deep glow that most of us don't even bother to see, but they are so much powerful when you just tweak them and look at them. In this case, I think it's not looking the best, but we can definitely make something out of it. And when you're doing post-processing, I would suggest you to go back and forth in your applied effect and turn them on, turn them off to see how they are affecting in overall image. Just be sure to be experimental and see if you land on something that looks cinematic and good. And one thing I would suggest that most of us do when we are in the beginning stage is that we try to add things and keep adding things on. Sometimes, especially when you are playing with the colors, sometimes you have to take the colors out. You have to take something out in order to add something else. For example, I'm not making everything super exposed. Sometimes I'm making it way too dark and then adding the color back. So that's what you have to keep in mind. Okay, now let's do something fun. Duplicate this and add scale keys to it. And cut it, and then add opacity about 40% and add a key, move it back, and then make the opacity fade out. So when it zooms in, so when the earbud comes into the scene and it stops, it will give that ghost zoom effect. I don't know what exactly is it called, but I think it's ghost zoom. And now as it's going away like flying to the right side, I want it to have a train effect. So to do that, it's super simple. You just have to duplicate it and put it on the side and keep duplicating it. Just one thing you have to keep in mind, like when you're duplicating it, each duplicate has to be a little bit bigger than the first one, and then you can later move them like this forward so they don't come at exactly the same timestamp. And now it's going backward. So what you can do is just, instead of pushing them backward, you can push them forward. Oh no, instead of pushing them forward, you can push them backward. So now when they go out, it will give this effect. This effect looks nice, I like it. And using this same method, you can make as much duplicates as you want. And if you want to do something unique, completely unique, like instead of making this twin effect, you can make a fan effect. For example, take the earbud and make it rotate on the 90 angle and then 180, and then after that, I don't know what angle is that. My math is weak. So yeah, you can like make a lot of cool effects. You can even add some backgrounds to them. Just go onto any website, that have some backgrounds, that the motion design backgrounds, you can just put them and they will look good. But I like to keep it subtle. It doesn't give too much of a, how do I say it, musician kind of feel, like music visuals kind of feel. We don't want to make music visuals, we want to make a slick, cool animation scene. Okay, now here, as you can see, when it goes out, a few of the earbuds cut the edge. So you can just fix it by simply animating the positions. Open the position, add a key, move forward and just make them move away on the left side, on the right side, until they fix the cutting edge. Select all the keys and hit F9 to apply easing to them. And same, if something like this happens, we don't want all the birds to fly over the last scene, we just want the main bird to come and fly over the last scene. So I will just cut them and keep the original bird, so it should look something like this. An additional thing you can do is to add a new solid and give it any shade and hit OK. And now we are going to make a mask on this solid and change the blending mode. If you want, you can change it, otherwise it is not necessary. And then add another solid. This is going to be the BG, and we will scale it up just a tiny bit to avoid the cutting edge and lock it. Now pick a fill effect and put it on the other solid that we just made. And put it behind all these earbuds. Apply a little bit feather to the mask to soften it out. And now and I think I will turn down the deep glow for now. It's not looking too good for the moment. Then I will put a fractal noise effect onto this solid. So first of all, I will set it to multiply mode and then tweak it a few settings, enable perspective offset and add some keys to the offset values so they add like a little smoky kind of effect. You can add an overlay as well, that's also good, but just in case, if you're using fractal noise, you can play with that kind of textures. If you want to have a unique texture, you can play with it inside of fractal noise and just make it super tiny. You don't have to make it super vibrant, or like all the things don't have to be visible to the eye. Some things are there just for the feel, not for the people to see. And after that, I will put a curves effect to the final earbud because it's passing so closely to the camera, so it's gonna be a little bit dark. So as you can see, it's a lot of going back and forth, coming back and turning things down, pulling things up. So this is how it's done. At least that's how I do. I like to keep going on until I find something that I like. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, another thing I noticed that the box has a little LED attached to it, so I want to make it more prominent so you can see. So simply I will duplicate the PNG sequence and mask out the LED part and then apply a little bit feather to it and put a deep glow effect to it until it is somewhat visible to the eye. And open opacity and add a wiggle code to it. So it gives that blinking effect. Something like this. And when the movement comes in, we are going to cut the layer down so it doesn't affect the other parts. Somewhere around here. Okay, now I will move to my most favorite part, is to add some text. And as you can see, you just have to, like, there's nothing too unique to it. It's exactly how we do in all videos. Just have to pick a cool font. And as you can see, as soon as we added some text, it has started to look good. Why? Because we are so used to seeing text every single time, every single day. And literally, if you just move your head to the left side, you are gonna find some kind of text, either on a bottle or a keyboard or anywhere. Yeah, it just makes everything looks cool, basically. And yes, I will put the blinking preset that I gave in the first lesson. I hope you have it. So just drop it on this text and it should be good. Now duplicate it and type something else if you want. And play with different kind of placements with text. This is my most favorite part. I like to have my time with it. I enjoy this part a lot. And for this text, I didn't like the blinking preset, so I will just put the other preset, and you should have this as well on your After Effects. Just tweak it a little bit so it comes from the left side. And if it's taking too long to fade up, you can adjust the keys and push them close to each other to make the animation faster. And make sure to use the overlapping opportunity to your full advantage. Like that was the whole point of exporting it as a PNG sequence, so we can overlap it with the text. Overlapping just makes everything look more, dynamic and aesthetically appealing. And then for the extra effect, I will cut down the layers one by one, the duplicate layers one by one, so they don't come in at the same time. They just pop up like this. It gives a nice effect. And the point of doing this is to tell that not everything has to come in or go out smoothly. Some things can just come in like boom and go in a flash. So it gives a nice effect and aesthetic to the animation, and be sure to use it to your advantage. Basically, you just have to make some kind of disturbance in the design or in the animation. If there is no disturbance going on in the design, then it will just look plain and flat. And in the term of art, it is called and often referred to as chaos in art. You can look up this term on the internet, chaos in art, and you will understand it further. So it's nothing too complex, it's just making some things that you don't like, but there is a chance that your viewers are gonna like it. Okay, now add another adjustment, and this is going to be the prism effect. I will put a BCC prism onto this, and this is quite a simple effect. You don't have to do anything complex with it, just leave it and let it do its thing. And I just want it to be onto this scene. Okay, now let's make that ending text effect. So you just have to type something. For example, I'm typing clean, then cut it like this, maybe a little bit further, and then right click and pre-compose it, so we send it to its own composition. Double click to navigate to this composition, and I think the height is quite big. We don't want it to be this big, so I will just cut it down and place the text on the left side and duplicate it. I think the height is too thin, so I will just add some height to it. So if we add a glow effect to it, it doesn't get cut off. And now you can duplicate it and type something else, and duplicate it one last time and type something else once again. Nice. So we have 3 texts, and make sure the font you are using is having light mode, medium mode, and bold mode. So first we have to make them light mode, then duplicate them and make the duplicates as bold. So first we have light, and then we have bold. So turn off the bold ones, and right click on the first text, create shapes from the text. Second text exactly the same, third text exactly the same. So we have converted our text layers to shape layers, and now we are going to turn them off for the meantime and do the exact same thing for the bold text. After doing this, delete the text. Now I would like to put the matching words together. And now we are going to select the first 2 shapes and type path in the searching option to open the paths. And now start adding some keys to all these paths, like this. Now go a little bit forward and copy the path keys from the bold text and paste them inside the thin one after going a little bit forward. the thin keys and hit Ctrl V to paste the keys. So this is what's gonna happen. A kind of a morphing effect, the text will start to morph from thin to bold. And we have to do the exact same thing for the other text as well. And now once you are done with that, you can delete the other layer. We don't need that. Open the other layers as well. Add keys for the paths. Copy the paths of the bold ones and paste the paths going a bit forward inside the thin layer, and then delete the bold layer. And do the exact same thing for this as well. And once you are done with this animation, what you have to do, you have to match the timing of each word. Like when the first word goes from thin to bold, then the second word comes in, and when the first word goes from bold to thin, the second word will go from thin to bold, and vice versa. It's kind of hard to explain it, but it's easy to see what's happening. Okay, now let's head back to the main composition. And let's make it a bit small and put this beneath all the layers. And I will increase the duration of this composition because I thought it was kind of too fast and I wanted to give some more display time to the text. Then right click on the text and go to time and enable timer mapping to stretch it out, just to give it some more display time. Okay, so it looks good so far. Maybe I will turn down the prism effect because I think it makes it unclear to see the text. And now we will add a deep blue effect to the text. Actually, let's just make an adjustment above this text and then add a deep blue effect to it. So instead of a glow as it is, we added some kind of uniqueness to the glow, so it gives like light flashing or the streaking kind of effect. And lastly, you can add the scale keys to the text and some opacity as well to make it come in and go out slowly and smoothly with a slight zooming in effect. Okay, now let's play it and check what we have. Okay, so that is it for this lesson. I hope you liked and enjoyed it as much as I did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I would be happy to answer it. And don't forget to download the assets and the project files. And in the upcoming lessons, hopefully we will be able to make something even more amazing. Thanks so much for watching, and until then, goodbye.